fewer than all the people in the world. And then it's all the people you can reach who might be interested in the thing you're doing. And then there's your core audience, the people that you reach who really feel spoken to by the thing you're making. And that's the process that we have to go through. And I know that at this point, some of you might be sitting there being like, I already have to write the fucking thing, I have to staff the fucking thing, I have to shoot the fucking thing, now I have to market the fucking thing. And my answer is, unfortunately, if you would like an independent, sustainable career, you are the CEO of your company. And as the CEO of a company, I do a lot of work that are not my core capacities or my core desires, but I get a lot of freedom as a result, right? I get a lot of leeway as a result. I get a lot of creative control as a result. There's lots of things I get back for the investment that I'm making. You can hire people to do this for you. That costs a lot of money, right? They will never do it as well as you do because you know your authentic voice the best. I like the Justin Simeon story because he started Dear White People as a Twitter handle, testing out the voice of his main character, and he knew, because he started in marketing, he's a genius at this. But he knew that starting a Twitter handle would blow up on Twitter because it was using the medium for all the things, like you say like racially provocative things to white people, and they will elevate the stuff. And he was like, this is exactly the point of the whole show, right? And he built a huge fan base out of that, such that when the film got purchased, I believe at a loss out of Sundance, like I know at a loss, maybe don't tweet that fact, but I don't think I'm supposed to know that publicly. But he got hired to do the marketing campaign because they knew damn well they would not speak to his audience in the way that he knew how to do it, right? And so the more you become expert in the way that you speak to your audience, the better partner you become to distribution. You don't need to know every way to get into a theater necessarily. The more you know, the more you can kind of protect yourself from shitty deals and offer help and etc. But the more you know about your audience, the more essential partner you become to a distributor. Because the truth is, how many of you feel like your work is telling stories that nobody is really seeing? Come on. Great. That means no distributor has ever distributed that before. You can't possibly expect them to be expert at talking about it. You have to build that expertise. Does that make sense? Like, it's annoying, but like, this is the thing about being in an emergent space. We have to take a lot more responsibility for the emergence, right? We have to do the experimenting. We have to try things, because they will fuck it up, right? They have totally different values built into what they're doing. They have totally different incentives. So that's why this opening part feels really, really important to me. So the long-term strategy is about turning strangers from the ether into your universe. And these are some indicators. Like, social media is a great indicator. It doesn't convert super well to get people to do things. You post things on social media, like fewer than 10% of them are gonna do the thing you're asking. You build an email list, this becomes like 30, 40, sometimes 50% you can convert, because these are people who've been like, I like you so much, I'm gonna let you in my inbox, right? And there are lots of other pathways, obviously. But then there are the people who actually do the thing you're asking. They fund the thing, you're showing up to the thing, you're my actual audience. Out of the total number of people this was marketed to, this is my actual audience. Does that make sense? Okay. So one of the things we have to do in looking at our actual audience is to leave broad demographics behind. So here's a thing that happens sometimes. People will be like, who do you think your audience is? And they'll be like, women between the ages of 24 and 35. And I am now really resentful that I've been teaching this workshop so long, like I used to be in that demographic, and I am no longer in that demographic. And so I hate this slide, because it feels like an attack. So these women are between the ages of 24 and 35, and we're like, just real fun. Where do you think you reach her on social media? Thank you. Where do we reach her on social media? Thank you. Yes. That's all I'm going to say about that, right? You have to get really specific about where your audience is in order to really understand what channels to even be exploiting. I also think LinkedIn is like the darkest horse of all the social media, and I know that says something about how old I am. Okay, So, is there anybody in here who would like to get up and pitch me their project in 1 minute? Yes, thank you, ma'am. Go ahead. Tell me, I need the name of the project, give me the genre, and give us enough to know if we would want to watch it.
So it is a comedy, dark comedy about a demon, actual demon, who goes to therapy and has an emotional support pet dog.
Okay. Is it a short feature? What are we talking
It's a short film.
A short film about a demon in therapy. Who's going to go see this? Okay, keep your hands up just really quickly. I want you to look around. Does any demographic help you with this? No. I'm just going to say that. No. These people do not fit in any demographic category except right now at a film festival in Atlanta. And just be careful when you ask these questions in a film festival room because, like, obviously we are predilected towards wanting to watch movies. But you actually have to go through the process of, can I bug you for 1 second? Is it okay? What's your name?
Kelly.
Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Where do you hang out online? What are your social media platforms?
Facebook and Instagram.
Great. Can I bother you really quickly? You had your hand up also. What social media platforms are you on?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Okay. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I hear an overlap. Where do you get news about things that you want to watch?
I don't know. Probably Instagram.
Instagram. Where do you get news about things you want to watch?
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram and Twitter. Okay. Guys, we can't still be on Twitter. That motherfucker is driving our society off a cliff. We have to hold him accountable. No. I walked away from an actual blue check mark and 25,000 followers the day he took over. Like, I felt the pain of it real bad, and I feel the pain of it continuously. But buff that guy. Sorry. That is a literal bad actor who is preaching violence against trans people, and we cannot let it stand. Like, that is part of our commitment to each other as a community also. Okay, who do you follow?
On what?
Give me your favorite, like your top 3 favorites.
On Instagram?
Yeah.
I just scroll.
You just scroll.
I just scroll.
Okay.
Oh wait, I follow the NBA.
Follow the NBA. Okay, so sports. So what I think is fascinating, what do you follow on Instagram?
I follow fitness for women who like to do yoga and cooking. We did like healthy, sort of cooking types of things and renovation.
And my sister. Okay, so I just want you to like look at these questions and think for a second about what it would be like to find 5 people who get a spark in their eye when you tell them about this, and ask them this set of questions. So what just came to my mind is it would be so fun to do a 30-second video of the demon doing a cooking show, of the demon watching basketball, right? Like this is why I say it's a storytelling medium, right? Like, the more you know about your audience, the more you can start to understand how your story might interact in the many worlds that they're in, because none of us is a monolith, right? I don't even like horror films. I would watch that film, right? I am here for the emotional healing of everybody. So I think that this is one of those tools in your toolkit that people skip over. It will provide you so much exciting creative fodder for how to reach an audience with the work that you're making. I'm also not giving you shit for being on Twitter.
On Twitter.
I like every once in a while.
I go on the website. I don't have the app.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, just don't download the app. I get it. I feel it. And the other thing that I think is really important to find out is, like, where do you watch stuff? This question was really different 5 years ago, even. Okay, so now everybody's like, I watch it on streaming. But that also means, like, 10 years ago, y'all, I used to have, as a producer, the most incredible fights with cinematographers who wanted to shoot in, like, 6K RAW because their vision was like a giant theatrical screen, and I was like, this is a short film. Oh, Lord, like, people are gonna watch this on Vimeo. What are you doing? Like, why do I need to spend $4,000 on storage? But part of the reason it's important to talk to your audience is to understand, where do they watch stuff? That helps you understand, like, who are my best distribution partners? What are the best channels for getting it to them? So you understand every step of the way where you're going to reach the audience in the right moment. So we know where to market to them and we know where to distribute to them. Again, if you show up with this information, distributors feel very differently about doing a deal with you than if you show up being like, I don't know, I think it's good, right? It's a very, very different thing. Okay, I didn't bring my clicker, so I just have to keep walking up and down the stairs. How do we get social? We get social to get outside of our immediate circle and to take the burden of fundraising and audience building off of like our nanas or whoever you might have in your life who thinks everything you do is great anyway. I would recommend using the social platforms that fit your lifestyle. Don't put yourself somewhere you hate being or that is bad for your mental health, right? I just want to say that really importantly, like marketing your shit is not worth trading your mental health. So you want to be on social platforms or leverage tools. I actually really like just putting on in-person events and leveraging partnerships, which I will get to in a little bit, because I did my 10 year, I did a decade on Twitter. I did as well as I could, and it's clear to me that it's bad actors operating in that space, and it made me exhausted. So now I focus more on stuff like this, right? So it's not the only channel, but just do things that are good for you. And there are mailing lists and newsletters that reach people. That's another question I love to ask. Do you subscribe to any mailing lists, or like whose newsletters are you reading? Those can be incredible marketing partners, and those people are infinitely reachable. You can usually get their email off a website, right? I can't say enough about community organizations and partnerships. People who are already speaking to the audiences that you would like to speak to, right? That, for me, is in many ways the healthiest approach of getting outside your audience, but still kind of being able to touch the community that you're growing. Because I think that's just really a valuable way to move. When you are speaking to your audience, it is always at the intersection of who you are and who you want to reach. And what I think is really important is the intersection of who you are and who you want to reach is tone, but it rarely represents all of who you are or all of who the audience is, right? And that's not the point. You're just trying to, because we're not monolithic, we're just trying to find our little intersections in the world. So you really want to be out there talking, honestly, truthfully, transparently about the thing that you're working on, also withholding information that would maybe like spoil the ending, or I think some people view speaking authentically on the internet as saying all the things. I don't think that works as well as people would like it to. If you are using the internet to strategically build and grow an audience, it is important to think about what relationship you're building with them, because a relationship you might build with them that's very much about your personal information can far overshadow your work pretty quickly. So I just think it's important to be strategic about that. Making sure you engage, right? If people are engaging with you, that's your actual audience, right? Just happening online. So you do have to have a regular sort of engagement strategy. I'm just gonna spend 30 minutes 2 times a day, whatever it is. I have to be like diligent about it, because I also don't really want people to know that I don't sleep that well. I don't want to be engaging with them between 2 and 4 in the morning. I feel like that's personal information I don't want to share. So I have to be strategic about when I do it during the day. Always altruism over narcissism. This sounds really obvious, but like posting about other people, uplifting people in your community, uplifting organizations that you care about, that actually goes a long way to audience building for you. And I think that's why I think community building is such a strong tactic. And you want to remind people, especially in the crowdfunding process, they're pledging, they're backing, they're not donating unless you have a fiscal sponsor, right? Donate is a very specific act of getting a tax deduction as a result, which is often not what's happening on crowdfunding. So you want to be specific with your language, with your approach, to make sure that the tone really just meets people kind of where they want to be. So when you have a dark comedy, that's actually a great example. Dark comedy is sort of one of the funnest ways to reach people because the entire internet runs on dark comedy, right? So like, it's a very popular tone to take. People can really access that. So this is just a review before we go into building the actual crowdfunding campaign. And we're gonna spend about 30, 40, 20 minutes talking about building the actual campaign, and then it's all in the execution. So the building of the campaign is gonna be kind of fun. The execution piece is gonna a little bit be like the second act. You're gonna get bored, you're gonna get discouraged, you're gonna feel a lot of things, and then we're gonna land in a good place, okay? I'm just gonna tell you what's about to happen. So if you wanna find your actual audience, you ask the right questions to the right people, the ones who have identified themselves as your audience. You learn how to talk about your project, where and when to say it. You identify the people, the community partners, the newsletter leaders, whatever, who will help you amplify your message. And you wanna do this in real life and online. And it's really only once you have an active audience that you're engaging with that you can ask them for things, like money, right? Like, here we are right now, right? We're 40 minutes into this workshop, and it'd be a little weird if I was like, hey, can I get $5? You know what I mean? I'm offering you something of value, but like, I'm also not, it'd be weird for me to just like ask you for money yet. I haven't finished delivering the value, and we don't know each other, right? You'd be like, what the fuck are you doing with my $5, right? So we're not there yet. So I just want to give you like a real life example of like, it takes a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But does anybody have $5? The entire name of the game in the crowdfunding space is momentum. The best way to not feel like you are begging for money is to take the following attitude. I am on a rocket ship going to the moon. If you would like to join me, want to chip in for fuel? Right? That is the thing, and I realize I've been using that metaphor for a decade, and I feel like Elon ruined that also. I'm feeling resentful about that now. In this case, for only $5, you could chip in for fuel and take us to the moon. But the inevitability of success, this is happening already. This is happening with or without you. But I'm offering you an opportunity to get involved because I love you, I want you to be here, it'll be more fun if we do it together. The first question I often get asked when teaching crowdfunding is, how much can I get? I hate this question. Because my question is to the last thing Linda was saying, how much do you need? How much do you need to get it all the way done? You need to write out a real budget, all the way beginning to end. You need to think about your crowdfunding incentives and the time you're spending. You need to budget for your life. This is really confronting to creators. You need to budget for your rent, and your hours, and your value. I could get everybody goes, you need to think about marketing and distribution. You need to think about festivals, right? So you need to account for all of the deliverables of your campaign and your film, make that whole budget. And maybe you're staring at that amount of money and you're going, that feels insurmountable. Now you have a couple of decisions to make. One, you can rewrite your project to make a smaller amount of money feel luxurious. This is my favorite thing that Mark Duplass always says. He's like, most creators get $10,000 and try to stretch it as far as they can, and everything feels very scarce. And the best thing you can do for yourself, especially early in your career, is write something where $10,000 feels fucking luxurious, and you can make something in an environment of plenty, and that does so much for your creative soul. Scarcity is not a super creative place to make things from. Creative constraints are interesting, but like you want to be strategic about what constraints you're setting, right? $10,000 should not be the constraint, right? The writing can be the constraint, the location can be the constraint, right? So think about that. The other decision you can make is staged financing. We see this all the time on Seed and Spark. People will come and raise for development or development and production, and then they'll come back and raise again for festivals and distribution. It is, in many ways, easier to raise larger amounts for things that are like already kind of on the way. There's some footage in the can, etc. And so often we see sort of smaller, more manageable, especially if you've never done crowdfunding before, smaller, more manageable upfront campaigns that cover the first part of the production or the development, and then you're building trust, right? So the people who contributed to that campaign see that you follow through on your stuff. We almost always see them re-up increase their contributions, right? Tell their friends, because they're like, well, now we have a relationship here and we can really trust them. So stage financing is another piece. I just want to tell you that we have a Film Budgeting 101 workshop. We have workshops going on all the time, and so if you go to the events page on Seed and Spark, you can usually find workshops that are happening all around the country and also virtually. And so we deep dive into a lot of these, and usually if you go search our blog, you can find additional articles and additional materials on literally everything I'm saying. Okay. Incentives. Every crowdfunding platform has the opportunity to build incentives. Incentives are super important. You know what we're gonna do, because I see y'all taking pictures of these slides. I'm gonna get a piece of paper. You're welcome to. I'm gonna get a piece of paper. I'm gonna get all your email addresses, and I'm gonna send you this deck. Is that cool?
Yes.
I should have said that like half an hour ago, because some of your wrists are probably hurting with notes. I'm sorry about that. But I will do that. But what we are.
For $5?
What's that? Yes, that's for the $5. No, that's okay. That'll also be for free. A common mistake in film incentives is physical rewards. So by show of hands, how many of you have a signed script of an independent film, not of a famous director, on like a favored shelf in your home? Okay, because it's one of the most fucking common incentives we see, and we're like, why? Incentive to whom? For what? and like, ditto, usually, t-shirts. Sometimes posters can be rad. You have a relationship with an artist, like, sometimes posters can be totally rad. I have absolutely leaned in to a poster now and again. But incentives, I think, are an opportunity to understand your audience also. So if you're already speaking to your audience, you'll get a sense of what they like and don't like, and it's totally okay to ask them. It's okay to invite them even into the creation of your crowdfunding campaign and say, hey, we're gonna get this off the ground, like what would be most exciting for you to see? Something that we have seen repeatedly that actually is pretty effective are these virtual and digital rewards. And those can play on like the humor or the photoshopping skills or the internet sleuthing, right? So what you'll see is people will, for example, like internet stalk their supporters and pull down a picture of them and then Photoshop them into something funny related to their campaign, and then blast that out on social media. Now, of course, that person is going to share it, and now other people know. And it's so the way that we like to say it is that it is virtual, it is shareable, it is immediate, and it is personalized. The internet loves that shit, right? So thinking about incentives as moments for further virality, for further sharing, for further community building, I think is really, really effective. There are other things I think can be really fun to people not in the industry. Premiere party invites, and then you can be like, yeah, I knew those two were gonna make out at this party. It's been sexual tension on set the whole time, right? Creating momentum with limited incentives. This week only, we're gonna provide these like super cool incentives, or this artist is gonna do live drawings. Brie Castellini, who's our crowdfunding manager at Seed and Spark, who has crowdfunded successfully several times on Seed and Spark, and has seen thousands of campaigns in her day and knows all the things, she would, throughout her campaign, go live at like 7 o'clock at night and be like, put $10 into the campaign and I'll draw you as a vegetable. Just because that's her humor, right? It was like very, very fitting for the campaign. And it was really effective, and she was doing like live interaction, which was really fun. So, even if you are working on something kind of serious and heavy, you can think about ways, like I have seen really powerful, beautiful films about tough topics like suicide use humor in their incentives, like the hang in there cat, right? And the ways to reach their community, again, not as a monolith. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pitch video. This is the most important part of your campaign. Why? Because you are making a movie, and so this is a small movie to tell people why they should give you money to make a bigger movie. However, it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money because you are creative storytellers and you know how to do things for very little. And the internet has now given you ample tools to do lots of cool things for basically nothing. Really great pitch videos are short, right? Like 2 minutes needs to be the time in which you said everything, but the first 15 seconds are so vital. You need to establish the tone of your project. So if it is a drama, I should have felt something in the first 15 seconds. If it is a horror film, the hairs should have stood up on the back of my neck for 30 seconds. But let me just show you what the vast majority of the pitch videos we get in their first draft look like. Hi, my name is someone you've never heard of in your entire life, and I am the writer, director, producer, and star of Danger in Midtown. Danger in Midtown is a terrifying thriller that goes through Midtown Atlanta in the middle of the night, and there are like some spooky alleyways. I am shooting this with like all my favorite people from film school, and here's the cinematographer to tell you about what it's gonna look like. And the cinematographer comes on and is like, I wouldn't say I'm a person who has influences. But if I were to have influences, I would say Goya, Almodovar. It's gonna be moody, it's gonna be 60s, it's gonna be shot on film. And we're very lucky to have a really wonderful actress from our school program. Hi, my name's Emily, and I'm so excited to star in Danger in Midtown Atlanta. I am known for my really wily scream, and I can't wait to show it to you when the movie comes out, and it's gonna be so scary and so fun. And it goes back to the director, that's like, we would love to make this movie, but we're broke. And we can't make anything when we're broke. And so we need your help to give us money, because that's the most important thing you could do, is give us money to make this thing that you have no idea if we have any qualifications to make. Bye. That was 90 seconds. And like, I just want to tell you, like, we see these at the rate of like 12 to 15 a day. And the reason that we teach this workshop and we make fun of it is because sometimes a little bit of shame is a healthy motivator. No, this is to say, like, you understand why that sucks. I could have taken my iPhone behind the actress to Midtown and simply walked heavily behind her shoulder, breathing. And she walked faster. And it's dark and the light's changing. It's weird, right? And she's breathing faster and she trips and falls and the camera slams down and she screams! Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the director of Danger in Midtown. We're gonna do this. You see what I'm saying? How much did that cost me? Fucking nothing. Yeah, so I want to say that, like, this is an opportunity to author in a different way. To help people understand you are very capable of doing the thing, if only you were better resourced. And you don't have to say that, you can show that. And that way you don't have to get into the thing. You need to make an ask of your community. You need to articulate the ask. But the first 15 seconds of your pitch video should do a lot of that work for you. So by the time that you're like, here are all the ways you can get involved. You can share. You could contribute something to our wish list. Do you have any of these items that we need? You could show up on set to be an extra for like a 10-minute scene at this time. We'll have good pizza, it'll be a party. And I will tell you, in my experience, extras who volunteer to be there as a part of your crowdfunding campaign often show up on time and with a better attitude than the people who are paid to be there. So I just want to say, like, there are lots of ways you can use this to leverage your community, but that pitch video is so important. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that nonsense in about 4 years. I forgot how fun that was. This all sounds like a lot of work, right? You can't do it alone. This is not a solo venture. Just like any film is not a solo venture, crowdfunding is not a solo venture. I'm a producer, and one of the things that I look for when I hire people is how game are they to get involved at this stage of the process. Because a really good crowdfunding campaign, a really good audience building campaign actually augments the careers of absolutely everyone involved. And I want to work with people who see that and want to be part of that. And want to be part of like the legacy of the thing and feel excited enough about what we're making to do that. And so it's okay to, I just want to say it's okay to screen for that, right? Like that's just a good hiring practice. Like how hype are you on getting this done? Because that's going to be everything to how we work together. Okay, so now we're going to go into the pre-production portion, which is, as we all know, not anybody's favorite portion of the filmmaking process. You have to plan out your crowdfunding campaign in advance. You will win or lose your crowdfunding campaign in the pre-production. You build an actual schedule. Here's where we're going to put, here are the days we're going to put out new video content. Here are the days we're going to put out new social content. Here are some of the, each week we're going to have a theme, right? You also want to think about, like, can we schedule some special events? I know the Atlanta Film Festival is happening in the middle of my crowdfunding campaign. I'm going to, like, host a sort of sidecar happy hour, or I'm going to come to a thing and make sure I raise my hand in a workshop. Is anybody crowdfunding right now? Okay. I just want to say, if you were, I would give you time to, like, pitch it to this crowd. So, but I want you to think about, like, what rooms can I get in to talk about this? What rooms am I already in? Do I have, like, a sports team or a youth group or a whatever that can, you know, will the Reverend let me stand up on Sunday? like there's lots of different ways to do collections. I'm just saying. And which teammate is in charge of which items, right? So play to everybody's strengths, right? Our cinematographer obviously was making new video content. We had a friend, last time I crowdfunded was like, my first child was 3 weeks old. That's how so 6 years ago. That was the last time I crowdfunded for my own project, which now makes me feel sad, that's too much time. But we had someone on the team who was just like a Twitter engagement genius. And she just like ran with it, right? We had another person on our team who was no, that was me. I was reaching out to press. I was like, oh no, that was my job. And so we were building, we were using lots of different strategies to build up on. Somebody was just doing the research on who we should be reaching out to on Twitter. And the social platforms, bless them, do help refer you new potential people, right? So the last thing I made that I crowdfunded on Seed and Spark was a web series about sexual consent called Fuck Yes. And the audience we realized really wanted these shorts was the sex education community. There's just like a dearth of good, positive sex education content that is like very diverse and like deal with lots of situations and lots of different kinds of relationship structures. And so we started interacting with all these sex educators on Twitter, and then Twitter would go, would you like to follow these 3 other sex educators? And you'd be like, yes, thank you. And then they'd be like, how about these 3? And you're like, oh, that's very helpful. So you can actually use that as a research tool to figure out who are the influencers that you need to reach. The other thing that is really important is you need to be humble in the face of what you don't know. So at every 3 or 4 day interval, go back and look at how what you're doing has performed. Have we reached our audience? Did we really get it out there? Did they seem to respond to it? It's often the stuff that you feel most excited about that people don't give a shit about. Right? And you just sort of, you have to like be ready to make adjustments, engage, ask people how they're doing, and as soon as people get involved, you want to find out where more of them are, right? And so as soon as strangers start coming into your campaign, go build a relationship with them. How did they find you? What else are they interested in? Why did they like the project, right? You can get so much information on the fly if you're immediately deeply engaging with the audience that's there for you. And just remember, this is work you really only have to do for these 30 days. Like you really got to dig in, buckle down, do this work for these 30 days. It will pay dividends for the rest of your career. Okay. Outreach priorities. Ranked. Your number 1 outreach priority is via email. Leveraging everybody you know and also everybody you've built access to through your crowd building, right? That email list that you've been building, those community partnerships that you've been building. Direct outreach to those people is your number 1 priority in a campaign. I just want to say, What you will often see in crowdfunding emails, tell me if any of you have gotten these. I've gotten 4 in the last month. An email that starts like, when I was 5, I picked up a camera and I knew. And then like 4 or 5 paragraphs later, there's a crowdfunding ask buried at the bottom. And when I see that, I read, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, please help. That's not the rocket ship. Every direct message has to be a rocket ship. And what I would really recommend is build a tight messaging deck or Notion or Coda or whatever fucking kind of collaboration platform you use, Google Doc, whatever collaboration platform you're using, that everyone in your campaign can pull from, to make it super easy to just say the best thing about the best way to talk about the project that we've collectively gotten. And then you can personalize it a little bit at the top. Hey friend, haven't seen you in a while. I'm so excited about this. I know that you are a therapist. You've grown up to be a therapist now. I have the perfect film for you, whatever, right? But put together really tight messaging materials that everyone in your campaign can use. Do that in advance. It is awesome. And it will take the most time, so you can't set forth in your schedule that you're gonna write 200 emails a day. You won't. There are lots of ways to schedule this out. I find like 10 to 20 emails a day, but really a day, is a really good way for people to move forward and be personalized enough to really make it work. And then you have your mailing lists and all of those things. Something I saw people start to do in the last couple of years is, because our phones now collect, they just roll over our networks. And so now I have I don't know, a decade and a half of context. I've lived 6 places during that time, right? And what I've started to see people do in advance of their campaign is go through that phone book, text people, and be like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm actually about to start this campaign. I'd love to send you a little bit more information. Do you mind sharing your email with me? And they would build a massive email list just there to start and reignite networks they had sort of lost, right? So I think that's a very effective thing. You can also use things like yet another mail merge. Do you know this extension for Gmail? Oh my God, it's my favorite thing on the planet. You create a template in Gmail, and then you have a list of email addresses in mail merge and their names, and you can write right into the Google Doc next to their email the personalized part of the message. And then yet another mail merge sends, however many it is, 200 personalized emails individually to all those people in your list. It is, I'm telling you, game changer. Bree at Stephen Spark taught me how to use it. I use it for any sort of mass communication, but everybody gets an email that's like, hey, name, how's it going? Was fun to see you last time. Great messaging, fit, right? Updates. So every crowdfunding platform, Stephen Spark is no exception, has a function for posting updates. This is your momentum builder. This also now goes as an email to everybody who has contributed to your campaign. So it lets the people likeliest to be stoked about your campaign know that things are going really well. Use these updates to give them tools to share, right? The updates need to be really good language also. You don't want to take the outtakes of your shitty pitch video and put those in updates. That's not a good idea, right? Still a shitty pitch video. Just find the stuff. It can be memes, it can be listicles, it can be just really quick, we got featured in this press, and here's an image, and here's where you can share it and tell people this, right? Just give them ways to engage in and amplify your momentum. But I will tell you, every single campaign that fails on Seed and Spark, and it's not many, has 0 to 1 updates throughout the course of their campaign. That is a very common, consistent thing. Updates are a really important part of your collective outreach. I just want to go back and say, just to be really clear, pre-compose social media posts for people. I'm not going to do this to humiliate you. I'm just going to say, I see you all because I am you. We do social media on the potty, right? And so you need something that's cut, paste, post, right? So you can use that time really effectively, right? That's the perfect time to catch people. Just imagine oh, they're going to read this on the potty. How can I make them be able to share it before they're done peeing? Look, meet people where they are. It's humans. Social media. Use social media to thank everyone publicly. The more creatively, the more personally, the more in line with your story. That's why those digital shareable rewards are great, because you can actually post them as public thank yous. So that's fodder for your social media. The other thing I see that I love is people will do a little bit of internet stalking of their backer and find out the cool thing that they do. And then to say thank you, be like, hey, this person just contributed to our campaign, and everybody go look at the cool thing they're doing, right? It's community building. Like, altruism is really, really a wonderful way to continue to fill up your timeline that isn't just like, me, I need money, right? So that sort of promoting your friend's work. Making announcements. This is why having an event, whether virtual or in person, during a campaign can really help you get through the doldrums. So almost all of the fundraising into a crowdfunding campaign happens in the first and last 7 days. And that's because people like things that are shiny and new, and people procrastinate. So the people who have more consistent sort of upward middle weeks are people who really planned kind of event-based short-term incentives, matching contributions, things that can help you. So if you are reaching out to people in advance of your campaign, I forgot to say this is really important. You should be ready, willing, and able to reach out to like a core community in advance of your campaign, being like, this thing is happening, can I enlist you? Like, can I count on you? And that, because like the 80% of all successful campaigns raise at least 30% in the first 7 days. So that first 30% usually comes from the people who like already have some association with you, whether because they know you or you've built them as a crowd in advance. And so that 30% is really vital to kind of try to get to as quickly as possible. So you need to let people know in advance, like, I need to count on you for this first little bit. And what's cool about that is sometimes they'll write back and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna totally get involved at like a, associate producer level, like I'll put in like 500. And then you say, actually, can you wait to do that until the second week? Because now in the second week, I want to say all contributions matched up to $500. And for some reason, people like doubling their money even when it's not going to them. It's just like a basic bizarre human psychology. So, and there are tools for all of this that you can schedule, right? So you can use things like TweetDeck, Hootsuite, Buffer. There are tons of tools out there that help you schedule your social media in advance. Just remember, you're going to still message test. And you may want to swap things out the more you learn. The bonus elements, we like to say we put the fun in crowdfunding. Those live events, the contests, the matching contributions, the short-term incentives, and like let your imagination run wild. I feel like people go into crowdfunding already in scarcity mode, and that can really limit the like visioning, imagining period that you do. So get together with your friends before you get a lot of the details together and be like, what would be fun if we did it? What would be fun that we think the audience would like? What are the silliest ideas? No bad ideas here. I saw Matt Damon on, I don't know, whatever. He and Ben Affleck are collaborating again. And while like, I feel like we've seen a lot of them in our lives, I really loved this thing that he said, which is that a really good collaborative partnership only judges you for your best ideas, not at all for your worst ideas. And so what I think is like, what are the funnest things we could do for this crowdfunding campaign? Wrong answers only. Like, it's just like, let's see what we can mine to make the process collaborative, fun, enriching, engaging, more a part of us building a relationship as a creative team, all of those things. Like, do that in advance so that this does actually feel like exciting, like, oh, I can't wait till the week that we X, I can't wait till the concert, or whatever that is. You should also feel that way during these times. Just like when you're on set and you know what day, you're like, oh, I can't wait to film this scene. You know what I mean? You want those moments in your crowdfunding campaign as well. Okay. During your campaign, use the damn schedule. Like, your film would not get made if you did all that pre-production and then just like ignored the schedule, right? The same is true here. Review that messaging, make your adjustments, make sure you are posting about other stuff so your feed doesn't get tired. And we like to say attitude of gratitude. I will never forget that we had somebody contribute to the campaign for the original film that like kicked off Seed and Spark, and then he came back and did a bunch more stuff. And I was like, I just can't believe how much you did for us, like we barely knew you. And he said, well, you were meticulously grateful. And that meant a lot to me. Meticulously grateful. I've thought about this phrase so many times before, like what that can do for you and another person, right? This is what I was saying before. Once people start to come into your campaign, get really curious about them. As soon as strangers start coming on board, get really curious about them, go build a relationship with them, make them your friend, find out more about them, find out what they do, find out where they can make you excited. And most importantly, because now this is your actual audience, ask them how they want to see this film, right? Oh, I usually see things at my local film festival. I'm based in Milwaukee. Great. That's an interesting place I could apply. You know, that's one way you can start to think about actually building out a festival strategy. Is like, you could also write to the festivals in the cover letter and say, during our crowdfunding campaign, we had a huge number of contributors come from this city and we'd really love to bring this film to them through your festival. What are festivals looking for? Look, an audience, right? So this is how you can start to partner with all of the distribution mechanisms out there because of what you learn in your campaign. Okay. Now you're done with your campaign. Most common next update after a campaign is finished. Sorry you haven't heard from us in a while. Don't be that guy. Your supporters have been there through the hardest part. Take them through the fun part. Just post something from set a couple of days, right? Get a couple of really good stills. I heard there is a 15-year-old photography intern here today documenting this. I was like, oh my God. What, like, we could be interfacing with all sorts of high school media programs and giving them opportunities to come do film stills on the set and crediting their work to our community of supporters and helping them build a portfolio, right? This is the community building part where all the stakeholder interests are aligned, right? So stay in regular communication with your audience. They will help you. They're on your team now. Please treat them as such. Keep growing your audience. I don't have to say this because we're here together at the Atlanta Film Festival, okay? But it's really hard to get to Sundance, or Sci-Fi, or Cannes, or Toronto. It's less hard to get here, Memphis, Indie Memphis, Nashville Film Festival, Cuculoris, Outshine Festival in Miami. Like, I can go on, right? And these festivals have community audiences, people you just will not reach if you went to one of the big fancy festivals, which, by the way, we all know, we know what the stats are. It's like, you know, they accept under 1% of what gets in, of what submits to the festivals, right? So you can take your crap shoot, and God, there's so many great things that can happen when you get that kind of shine. But you can't pass out a clipboard in the Eccles Theater at Sundance and collect email addresses. They don't take time into that. But you can at Indie Memphis and Atlanta Film Festival. And now you're building your list. So like, festivals are not just a place to like go get shine. It's a place to build community with your creators and really interface with the audiences who are likeliest to support you forever. And I just want to say, I have never seen an audience, what am I trying to say? I have witnessed an audience watch a mediocre film and come away in love with the filmmaker after a great Q&A. I've also seen people watch a really great film and walk out of the theater being like, fuck that guy. Okay? Like, getting up in front of a crowd and being able to talk about your work and just being excited to be there and willingly listen to their long comment that is not a question. And find a gem in it and respond to them in an honest way. That's community building. People have lots of different ways of expressing what has just happened to them in a movie theater. And sometimes they need to like externally verbally process in front of a crowd. Like, is it anybody's favorite thing? No, it's a trope at this point, and yet these people still exist, right? And that's okay, but being like open, earnest, being willing to answer questions, thinking about how you want to handle things that are like less appropriate questions, like how much did you make it for, right? When you can talk about a crowdfunding campaign, for example, you're like, oh my God, this is like one of the coolest parts of this film, is we got to engage with an incredible audience that supported us, right? You can deflect the like less comfortable piece of it with your community. Or they'll inevitably ask you what's next, right? Have an idea, have an answer, have a thought, have an earnest answer that's like, I don't know, I got 5 scripts that I'm working on and I haven't picked a favorite yet, right? But being earnest and really being willing to like gather thoughts, ideas, reflections in a festival can earn you audience that will stick with you, amplify you forever. That person seemed like a really good person. I feel really good sharing their work forever, being like, give it a minute. I know, like the first third like isn't quite there, but the last third. We had a film on Seed and Spark premiere at a really large film festival, really huge stage, huge theater, big city. And I got there and I watched the first third and I was like, oh no. And then like 25 minutes in, it did a thing that independent films sometimes do, which is it found its footing and it got fucking magical, right? And I was so excited, but in the streaming landscape, that's really hard. People will shut you off. Like when you're stuck in the theater, you'll get there. So now I have a sense of how I'm gonna refer this movie to people. I'm gonna do it carefully, I'm gonna do it one-on-one. Like publicly, I can't be like, the first 30 minutes is shaky. I know those filmmakers real well. I'm not trying to hurt their feelings. But I know that I still really want to support them, so I refer the film to folks in a more personal way, like through DMs, right? And I say, you just gotta stick with it because I promise you it gets fucking magical at a certain point, right? And that's actually what independent film needs. Most of us are not making films that are perfect front to back, right? We're not doing Orson Welles when we're 26. And that's okay. Like, the film that I made that gave rise to Seed and Spark has like 4 great scenes, and the rest of it is pretty shaky. But I'm telling you, there are 4 scenes. There is a scene where a young woman is sitting alone in a field in an Adirondack chair, and she has just completely blown the eulogy at her best friend's funeral, like flubbed it terribly. And she's sitting alone by herself and she's staring off in the distance. And a dragonfly introduces itself in the screen. And it comes, looks around, and it lands on her shoulder. She's a brilliant actor. She takes a breath, but you do see her check the camera. She spikes the camera for a second. And she looks at it. And you realize it's her friend coming to visit her. And she looks off into the distance. And that's the scene. I will never forget, because I was up at the house and holding Linda's shot. And, it was obviously quiet, because we were shooting like on the location. That made me feel really emotional. It was a really beautiful day. And as soon as the director yelled cut, everybody screamed. Because we knew we had done the magic thing. And those are things that only happen in independent films when you're like broken down and you're trying your hardest and whatever. But they don't any longer fit the streaming mechanism. Those are the films that you have to beat it out in the theater with it, right? Or sitting around with your friends. And so we have a lot greater responsibility of how we carry that forward as audiences, as community, as collaborators. We can't just be like, yeah, go watch this thing on streaming. They need context, right? And we need to find ways to do that for our own work and for each other and be really honest about what our work is when it gets done. I would love if these filmmakers could be like, I start slow, all right, but fucking stick with us, I promise. Do you know what I mean? And nobody feels like they can do that because everybody's got to be like crushing it in the public. And I think they know also. You know what I mean? So I want to offer that because I think what we make is so different from the like shiny, super high budget streaming landscape stuff. There's a reason they have to invest billions of dollars to make that content. Because streaming is like a ruthless medium. People will switch you off right away. I am among them. Like, no, I don't feel good. Next. Right? It's the Tinder effect. So yeah, so I say that to say, if you're really honest about your work, you build a really deep relationship with your audience and your compatriots, they will find ways to get the word out that will help you. Okay. Join forces with other projects, other artists. Find sustainable strategies. Those are strategies that sustain you, your work, your heart, your creative universe, and sustain each other. I'm done.